The wind touched his face while he looked back once to check if the curtains of the living room was closed. He made sure that the glass doors to the balcony was closed securely before stepping out. Tears dropped one after the other as he couldn't control his messed up emotions. He gripped on the railing tightly. Was it not my fault? Had I been a better man? If only I didn't change the decisions, I wouldn't have ruined the lives of people. I ruined Ryan's life. I broke her off from her family, from myself. I made the life of Molly tough, for she has to put up with someone like me. Universe gave me a chance to make things better, but I made them worse. Now, Ryan is just a figment of my imagination, while I'm torturing my child and wife, staying in the past. The grip on the railing loosened like his mind was detaching from all the current connections he had with this world. He took involuntary step towards the edge of the balcony, looking at the distant lights of the star. His hair flowed to the rhythm of the cold wind, his feet on the designer railings higher up from the floor. He looked down at the road down the apartment complex. The hard ground that invited death looked so tempting. Away from all the pain, he would be free of all the guilt he was carrying, the guilt of killing the one who loved him so dearly, the guilt of marrying a woman while still having someone else in mind, the guilt of ruining the chances given to him again. The small pain he would feel while his body would touch the ground will relieve him of the pain of living a life with the countless painful experiences. He took in a deep breath, feeling the cold down his chest. He opened his arm wide and closed his eyes, tilting his body forward. In a quick motion, Taeyang fell on the ground, but not on the cemented road in front, but backwards on the tiled floor of his balcony. He closed his eyes tight in frustration. He knew who it was who was again in the path of him ending his own life. "Why don't you let me go?" he shouted at the woman who was on the floor beside him, her face crimson with crying while breathing heavily. "What do you want me to do then? Watch my husband jump off? You should have. You should have let me. Why do you want me to suffer like this?" He broke down, crying, covering his face in his huge palms. She slowly moved closer to his body, hugging his torso with her arms. He didn't push her away. He didn't have the strength to do so. "Do you hate me and your daughter this much that you want to end your life and leave both of us here? Do you want us to go through the pain of losing a loved one?" "Why should I live a life like this? I hate it. I have already lost my loved one." He was breaking down inside with the guilt of being the destroyer of multiple lives, though nobody blamed him for this, as only he knew what role he played in everyone's life. Molly was crying too. She was tired seeing her husband go through this every day. She was tired of telling herself that at some point he is going to heal. But what was she supposed to do? She loved him and didn't want to leave him to possibly his own demise. "I don't know why you're blaming yourself for everything. Ryan's death was never your fault. What do you know about it? All that my Ryan has become is an imagination I keep seeing in dreams. She was my wife." He looked at the scared woman into the eyes. He looked like a madman who had nothing more to lose. "Do you know what I did? Have you ever believed me when I told you about my past? Didn't you just act to understand like everyone else?" "No, Tim, I didn't act when I said that I can understand you. None of my tears were fake when I cried hearing your past. I didn't lie to you when I told you that I wish you could change the past. I genuinely feel you. Why am I going through all this? Tell me. I've been a bad husband once. I wanted to correct my mistake, which ended up in absence of Ryan from this world." He looked at Molly's arms wrapped around his body. "Now, I'm again being a bad husband and a useless father. I was not just a failure in the past life but also in this life." He chuckled, tasting his own tears. Molly sat next to him while holding him in her hug. She looked away from his face to the distance as she remembered something. "Do you remember our school days?" Tam didn't understand why she was bringing their school times, but he listened to her in the eerie calmness of the midnight. Do you remember when we say at the end of each year that I will do my best if I am given another chance at this? But when the new academic year starts, we revert back to our old ways. Are you trying to make me feel more bad? No, but do you remember the times when we waste half of our day? And because we have wasted half of the day being unproductive, we resort to spend the rest of the day unproductive as well. Yeah, that was so stupid. Instead of spending the leftover time watching movies, we could have just utilized it to study. But we never do it because we are so guilty about the already wasted time. Exactly. What an irony, right? We always keep looking at the known past and think how we could have changed it, how we could have a better comeback. We could have corrected our mistakes. Instead of focusing on how we can make it better from now onwards, we hold to the past and allow our present to become our past as well. But what if our past is painful enough that it takes up our peace of mind? Our past is what makes us, so forgetting is not a solution. Taeyang let out a breathy chuckle. So there is actually no cure to this, right, Doc? There is one, actually. He looked at her with his hopeful eyes. It is hard to accept and implement the solution. She waited a moment before speaking again. Accept what happened in the past is past, which is no longer in your control. Taeyang looked away, feeling more devastated. She was asking him to do something he cannot do. Then accept that your past self did what was the best according to his understanding. He didn't know what you know now. Forgive him, for he tried his best. Do you think that he would have done things wanting to punish himself? Taeyang shook his head to indicate a no. He had to forgive himself. Was that any way possible? They say that guilt is the biggest punishment. No matter how much the affected person forgives you, the regretful and the one who feels guilty can never forgive himself. 1 year later, Masha was in the garden planting some roses while Taeyang was watching the kid fondly. Molly's eyes were on Taeyang. Both Taeyang and Molly knew that she was smitten for him. In this 1 year, Taeyang worked on himself. He tried to pull himself for his current reality, his wife and child. He didn't forgive himself nor forgot his actions, but he knew that to correct himself, punishing his current family was not right. They didn't do anything wrong. Taeyang. She called his name, bringing him out of his thoughts. He briefly looked at her, flashing a smile. If, she contemplated for a second before proceeding, if you were given a chance to go back, who would you be with? Taeyang was confused about her question. I don't understand your question. Molly took in a deep breath. She felt that it was a useless question anyway, as she somewhat knew his answer. If you could go back in time, before Ryan's accident, I'm very sure that you would save her this time. That would surely change the future as well. She was right about the almost impossible traveling back again. You know that we both, Ryan was and I am, in love with you. When the choice is yours, how would you choose the future then? Taeyang sighed and looked away. There is nothing about any alternative that is not possible. Only I'm trying to live in the present. Don't remind me of the things again. I'm sorry, but I couldn't help but think about it. I have felt in these 15 years of being together how much you love Ryan. And I know you've been with me for my sake, for the sake of our marriage and Masha. If time was to spin back again, neither me nor anyone else except for you will remember us, or Masha. Then the choice will be yours again. Taeyang stood up from his garden chair, startling Molly. She looked up at his towering figure. I'm going to help Masha with her plans. He quickly walked away, leaving the woman alone. She knew the mask Taeyang was wearing. Molly was Taeyang's doctor and counselor when he was going through a breakdown. There, she came to know how much he loved Ryan. But when his parents requested, she stepped up to marry him. She remembers how, though Taeyang was going through pain and sickness, he agreed to Molly's treatments, words, and directions. He never made her unhappy consciously. He tried giving her everything, including Masha. Though she never wanted to be away from him, she wished that he was relieved from this pain. She was willing to let him be with his YN, if that meant he would be happy. A tear left her eyes as she watched him squatting next to Masha, digging the soil and planting the rose stem. They both securely covered the stem with soil, dirtying their hands and clothes. At night, Molly walked to the shared bedroom. Taeyang was already in the bed waiting for her to join him. Did Masha sleep? She just did. I read her a story. She walked to the dresser, pulling out a box. Popping a few tablets in her palms, she walked closer to Taeyang, who was following her steps with his eyes. She poured some water in the glass. Forwarding the medicine and water to Taeyang, she waited him to take his daily medicines. He reluctantly took the pill and gulped it down his throat as usual. Leaving a heavy sigh, he handed back the glass to Molly. I hate these medicines. Why do I have to take it? It is prescribed for your blood pressure. You have to take the medicine without excuses. Taeyang held his head, feeling a shooting pain in his head. What happened, Tae? She inquired. I'm feeling a little dizzy. I think I should sleep. All right then. I will switch the lights off. She left him in peace and went back to do some work in her office. Taeyang woke up from his deep sleep, hearing noise coming from somewhere. He slightly opened his eyes, trying to adjust his dilated pupil to the bright morning lights. His eyes met an unfamiliar ceiling. He turned his head left and right to grasp what was happening. Did he travel back in time again? This was the very first thought that came to his mind. Why was all of this happening to him again? But where was he? He sat up slowly on the bed to realize that he was in a hospital bed. Why was he in a hospital? Didn't he go to the bed last night peacefully after the dinner? What had happened to him that he ended up in the hospital? He touched his skin to feel if it was tight again. Was he back in time after Ryan's accident? He couldn't catch the string of events. The wide door of the hospital room opened. He curiously waited to see who was going to enter. Masha? He called out. The kid with the coloring book smiled at him. You woke up really late today. Did I? What happened to me? Why am I admitted here? And where is Mom? He knew that Molly would be there somewhere, but instead of answering his question, Masha walked to his bed. She climbed on the bed, sitting next to him. Opening the coloring book, she started to show him the drawings she made last day. Taeyang stroked her hair gently while lending her his ears and attention. Within a few minutes, the door to the room opened again. Taeyang and Masha looked at the door. Both were expecting Molly to come inside, but what Taeyang saw was beyond his perception. Wayan? His eyes widened, seeing her there. She was not a day older than how he remembered her. He was definitely dreaming. He was seeing his dead wife. His eyes were in tears. But how could he walk to her or touch her? After all, she was just an imagination. Hi, Wayan auntie. Is my mom coming here any soon? Taeyang was beyond shocked. Masha could see Wayan's spirit too. Who are you talking to, Masha? Masha quickly looked at Taeyang and covered her mouth, stopping herself from talking any further. Tell me, Masha, who are you talking to? His eyebrows crashed, seeing the child being silent. Masha quickly got off from the bed and ran to the corner of the room, immediately starting to color in her book. He looked back to see if he saw Wayan again. She was still there, looking at him with a smile. Soon, Molly entered the room. She was in her white coat. How are you feeling now, Taeyang? Molly was standing next to Wayan. Taeyang felt that something was wrong. Something was wrong with him. What happened to me? You just had a little film rolling inside your head. We just shut down at the cinema hall. Taeyang got confused. What are you talking about? Allow me to explain. This might sound a little bit weird. She walked closer to Taeyang, sitting opposite to him. That night, after our fight, I changed when my sweet wife became like this. Had I known that things are going to be like this, I would have never showed up on that date. He frustratedly spit out what was in his mind. So, you wish that you never met me, huh? She walked closer to him, grabbing his face towards her, trying to see the truth from his eyes. He removed her hands from his jaw. Of course, I didn't have any idea. If I could, I would have never married you. He walked out of the place. Today was the day. You didn't go back to her bedroom that night. Tam walked out of the house, leaving Wayan in her broken state, but she kept calling his name, which he ignored in anger. She ran in the darkness trying to find his figure. She was crying, calling for his name. Running in her slippers, she found his body moving towards the road. Under the streetlights, she could see his trembling body swaying side to side, yet moving towards the road. There was a light on one side of the road. She knew what that light meant. Wayan ran as fast as she could. A vehicle honked its high-pitched horn while passing by the couple. Luckily, before he could be crushed, she pulled him back. Are you crazy, Taya? You are going to do this just because you are angry at me? He looked at her with his half-closed eyes. Something was wrong. What happened, Tay? His body soon crashed into hers. He had fallen unconscious. Present. You were soon admitted here. Dr. Molly was the one treating you all this time. Almost for 8 months. And here we learned that you have had an undiagnosed schizophrenia. What? What do you mean? You must have had it for some time, manifesting in smaller forms, or it might have been in subsided forms, but the pressure, stress, and anxiety might have triggered it to relapse. I don't believe this. Are you calling me crazy? You're not crazy, Tim. Trust me. So whatever I saw, the accident, time travel, you were suffering from multiple delusions, guilt and negation being common themes. Tiang looked at the corner of the room to see Masha, who was now looking at the trio. What about Masha? Who is she to me? Masha is Dr. Molly's daughter. You were here for the last 8 months and instantly believed that Masha was your daughter. Thanks to the kind heart of Molly and Masha's cooperation, we let her be with you throughout the treatment. Tiang broke down into tears. He couldn't believe that whatever he went through was just a phase of his disease. None of what he saw and thought were real. He lifted his head to see Wayan. He wasted no time and he hugged her petite figure tightly. Do you know that I thought I lost you forever? I was always here, next to you. You just didn't notice me. I'm sorry for all this trouble. I must have made you angry and made you go through so much pain. You're not a trouble. You were never were. I was in pain, seeing you in pain. Well, you have to continue taking medicine and treatment and make sure that you resolve your fights like 2 adult lovebirds. Wayan and Taeyang chuckled at her statement. Hope I am not disturbing anyone. The door to the room opened, revealing a man who was peeking into the room. I thought you'd get late. I finished the work early. How is Mr. Kim now? He is good. Taeyang looked confusedly at Wayan. Who is he now? That is Dr. Molly's husband. Taeyang just answered with a no. You can come inside, Yoons. Taeyang is better now. The man walked in with a gummy smile. I'm glad to know that you're all right, Mr. Kim. I'm Min Yoongi. He forwarded his hand to earn a handshake from Taeyang. Thank you for being with my daughter. She loved being in your company. I'm glad that she liked her time with me, and it is nice to meet Masha's father. Taeyang looked at Masha with a sad face. He was so much in love with the kid. I love you, Dad. She ran to Taeyang and kissed his cheeks. You don't have to call me Dad or act in front of me anymore, Masha. I'm all right. I don't act. It is true that I love you, Dad, but a little less than I love Appa. She jumped on Yoongi's arms. Everyone giggled at the little girl. Yoongi and Masha left the trio alone. Now, about the two of you. I will refer you to a family doctor. Don't give up. There is still hope that you both can see a tiny future in your home. There are so many options in life to make yourself happy. Don't fight with each other like little kids, alright? She winked at the two of them, walking out of the room, giving the couple their awaited privacy. Now what? She asked him, raising her eyebrows questioningly. He slowly slipped his hand into hers. Well, what can I say? I missed you all this time. Let us keep trying, like Dr. Molly said. Wyan hit his chest playfully as they enjoyed the rest of the evening in the hospital, in each other's arms, listening to each other. The lovers were back again.